1800 hours Pakistan Standard Time. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Sumaira Kamal. The headlines first. Prime Minister has directed the authorities concerned to undertake emergency measures and bring out of the box solutions to control smuggling of essential commodities. President has signed Protection of Journalists and Media Professionals Bill 2021 into law to protect rights of journalists community. Addressing the signing ceremony in Islamabad this evening, Information Minister said government is standing by the working journalists and the Act provides employment protection to them. Pakistan has strongly condemned the continuing spree of extrajudicial killings of innocent Kashmiris by Indian occupation forces in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. A 9-member United Nations Credentials Committee meets at UN headquarters today to consider credentials of all 193 members for current session of a General Assembly. UN Secretary General has emphasized the need of a global vaccination campaign to get rid of COVID-19 pandemic. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Imran Khan has directed the authorities concerned to undertake emergency measures and bring out of the box solutions to control smuggling of essential commodities. Chairing a meeting in Islamabad today, he stressed that emergency measures must be taken to control smuggling of wheat, urea, sugar, flour, petrol and to check money laundering. He said the objective is to provide relief to the common man against price hike. The Prime Minister said that heavy damage is inflicted on the economy of the country due to smuggling of food commodities and due to price differential. Chairman Senate Mohammad Sadiq Sanjarani and Chief Minister Balochistan Abdul Quddus Bizenjo called on Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad today. During the meeting, views were exchanged on development issues in the province, including provision of electricity to Gwadar and timely completion of development projects. The Prime Minister and Chairman Senate also discussed matters pertaining to uninterrupted gas supply to the province in winter season and construction of Quetta-Karachi highway. President Dr. Arif Alvi has signed into law the Historic Protection of Journalists and Media Professionals Bill 2021 to protect the rights of journalists community. A ceremony to this effect was held at Aiwan-e-Sadr in Islamabad this afternoon. Speaking on the occasion, President Dr. Arif Alvi expressed his pleasure over the consensus developed on this important piece of legislation. He said there is uniformity of views regarding the rights of journalists and with this effect, an act, the responsibility of both the government and the media owners has increased. Dr. Arif Alvi said given the threats faced by the media professionals, this act provides for their right to life protection against ill treatment. In her remarks on the occasion, Minister for Human Rights Shiri Mazari said this act is extremely progressive and prepared after hectic consultations with all the stakeholders. Shiri Mazari said the act defines the media professionals and envisages journalist welfare schemes. It is now legal obligation of the media owners to provide insurance and training to the media professionals. She said women have also been given representation in the commission to be formed under this act, which will address the complaints of journalists community. Speaking on the occasion, Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said this legislation is a leap forward to provide journalists rights and to make them available to community in the first world. The minister said the government is standing by the working journalists and the act provides employment protection to them. Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said that the media enjoys freedom in Pakistan and will continue to do so in the future. Interior Minister Sheikh Rashid Ahmed says the government is ensuring respect to all schools of thought, including minorities, as provided in the Constitution of Pakistan. Addressing Leaders' Conference in Islamabad this afternoon, he said that no legislation will be made which confronts any faith in the country under the leadership of Prime Minister Imran Khan. He said minorities, including Christians, are not involved in any case against the state. The minister made it clear that minorities in Pakistan are being provided free environment for worship according to their religion. Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting Farooq Habib says the government is taking concrete measures to control the inflation on sustainable basis. Addressing a joint news conference flanked by a spokesperson of the Finance Ministry, Muzammil Aslam in Islamabad today, he said the government has reduced taxes and duties on import of various essential items to lessen the burden on poor segments of society. The minister said according to latest data, entire world has witnessed record inflation due to COVID-19 pandemic that has affected the life patterns in the worst manner. This is Radio Pakistan. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops in their fresh act of state terrorism martyred 2 youth in Pulwama district today. The youth were martyred during a cordon and search operation at Kasbair area of the district. According to data released research section of Kashmir Media Service today, Indian troops have martyred 20 Kashmiris in the last month. 18 people were injured due to use of brute force, firing and tear gas shells by Indian police and paramilitary personnel on peaceful demonstrators and mourners in the occupied territory. Around a dozen houses were gutted in a massive fire in a remote hilly area of Gurez in Bandipora district today. Pakistan has strongly condemned the continuing spree of extrajudicial killings of innocent Kashmiris in staged encounters and fake cordon and search operations by Indian occupation forces in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In a statement, Foreign Office spokesperson Asim Iftikhar Ahmed said at least 18 innocent Kashmiris have been martyred with impunity by Indian occupation forces in the last 1 month. While the fundamental freedoms of Kashmiris remain suspended, the Indian occupation forces have further intensified their repression in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir in the past weeks. He said the deteriorating security and human rights situation in the occupied territory is a matter of grave concern for the international community. The World Health Organization has agreed to launch negotiations on an international pact to prevent and control future pandemics. The decision was made by consensus at a special ministerial meeting of UN. Its health bodies member nations in Geneva today. Meanwhile, in a statement, the United States UN mission in Geneva has welcomed the decision to advance health security and to make global health systems stronger and more responsive. The governments around the world are urgently scoring databases for recent cases of COVID-19 infections. Data shows it was circulating before it was officially identified in southern Africa last week, and it has since been detected in more than a dozen countries. It took the World Health Organization months to designate it a variant of concern, its highest level. A 9-member UN Credentials Committee, which includes Russia, China and the United States, will meet at UN headquarters today to consider the credentials of all 193 members of the current session of the UN General Assembly. The committee will likely defer its decisions on the representation of Afghanistan and Myanmar on the understanding that the current ambassadors for both the countries remain in the seats. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has emphasized the need of the global vaccination campaign to get rid of COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking during the meeting in New York, he said as the pandemic continues to wreak havoc on developed and developing countries alike, access to COVID-19 vaccines should be must for everyone, everywhere. And finally, the weather. Mainly cold and dry weather is expected in most parts of the country during the next 12 hours. However, smog and fog are likely to prevail in plain areas of Punjab during morning hours. To end the news, here are some of the headlines once again. Prime Minister has directed the authorities concerned to undertake emergency measures and bring out-of-the-box solutions to control smuggling of essential commodities. President has signed Protection of Journalists and Media Professionals Bill 2021 into law to protect rights of journalists community. Pakistan has strongly condemned the continuing spree of extrajudicial killings of innocent Kashmiris by Indian occupation forces in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. UN Secretary-General has emphasized the need of a global vaccination campaign to get rid of COVID-19 pandemic. And that is the end of the news. For more news and analyses, log on to our website radio.gov.pk and also watch live streaming of our bulletins on the link facebook.com/radio Pakistan News Official.